Well, it's not like I don't know what I'm doing when it comes to chickens, but these chickens are doing my head in. We made some decisions early on about how we were going to set them up, and some of those decisions just aren't panning out for us. So chickens are due an upgrade. This is where our chickens are at the moment, and I'm okay with this as an interim setup, and that's all it ever really was. So we got chickens really early on when we moved out here a few months ago, and we wanted to raise them through the colder months so that they were ready for egg laying in time for spring, and that's where we're at right now. So I've got three main concerns with this location that we want to resolve by relocating them and doing a few upgrades for them. The first concern is really just cosmetic. This area is basically in front of our tiny home, and so it's a little bit of an eyesore in that it just blocks my view, and it's technically kind of on my front lawn. So I think we can come up with a better location. It's also totally in shade, and I want to give them a little bit more of a balance between sun and shade. So really it's just a cosmetic thing. So we're going to relocate them to solve that, and also do a few little cosmetic changes to their coop. Now the second thing that's an issue is the fact that we're 100% free ranging these chickens at the moment. Now I am a firm believer in free ranging chickens. The advantages are huge, but you've got to be able to deal with it properly. And we've got a couple of things that aren't working out for us at the moment with free range chickens. Number one, I'm establishing gardens, and establishing gardens is like prime location for chickens to go scratching and looking around in freshly made garden beds and mulch and all of that. And so they're just kind of getting in the way. Secondly, we've got a little nursery set up where we're raising young plants and caring for some of the plants that we brought with us, and the chickens are getting into that setup and trying to eat all those shoots. And another reason is we're also in the process of teaching them where to lay eggs. So we've set up some nesting boxes. They're kind of getting it. We've been using some fake eggs to help teach them where to lay eggs, but because they're free ranging and they're kind of learning this for themselves, they just lay wherever they are. And I haven't found all the eggs. I know that for a fact because I found a big stash the other day. So we want to make sure that we're getting all the eggs, and also that they've been trained properly. And then finally, I don't know if you've ever kept chickens before and you own a deck, but if you do, you know that deck is like a chicken poop magnet, and I'm just kind of over it. So we're going to step away from free ranging for a season until we get some of our other processes and things established. The chickens are going to go into kind of a temporary setup. Now I say temporary, but we want to set it up really nicely and to look well. So we're going to fence this area behind me as a proper chicken fenced area, and that's going to set them up so that we can establish a few of those things in the meantime. And the third thing I want to solve is predators or potential predators. I actually haven't had an issue with predators out here, and I know we've got them. We've got goannas who have come by really close in the first few weeks that we were here. We've got wedge-tailed eagles, and from experience farming chickens, I've seen wedge-tailed eagles carry off fully grown adult chickens. And we've definitely got foxes. I've seen them in neighbouring properties and out on the roads. But foxes I'm not that concerned with, because I know my dogs are going to be the first line of defence to that, because the other night we had a little echidna snuffling around out there in the long grass. He was about 50 metres away, and how do I know that? Because it was pitch black outside. The dogs arced up from inside the house, doors closed, they alerted, we let them out, we followed them, we found this little guy, we left him alone of course, we came back inside. But I know if they can hear a little echidna snuffling away from 50 metres from the closed up house, then I've got no concerns when it comes to foxes. And so I want to make sure that we are predator proofing at all times. So I've got some security and structural things that we can do to the coop to make that even stronger. We want to do the fence, as I said, and I want to add a single electric wire as another line of defense around the entire outer perimeter of that, so that the fox has got something he's got to tangle with, and that potentially alerts the dogs a few minutes earlier as well. All of that's going to take some time, so I reckon we're going to be a week or two on this entire setup. We'll see how far we get in the next few days, and I'll give you some tips and tricks along the way. But for now, let's get into it. I've got a rough idea for a plan on how I want this to go, and I went up to the hardware store last night and we picked up a bunch of materials. So what I'm thinking is based on the chicken mesh that we've been able to buy. So it's a 50-meter roll, that's that in feet. It's a 6 foot high or 1.8 meter high fence. So that's my first determining factor. So that's going to give us roughly about a 12 meter by 12 meter space, 144 square meters, again, that in freedom units, and that's going to be heaps and heaps of space. We've only got half a dozen or so chooks right now. We want to increase that to 30, 40, maybe maximum 50, depending on the few breeds that we want to work with and what we can access around here. We don't know yet. We haven't worked with any of the local poultry suppliers yet. All right, the rough idea for the plan is timber posts. Now, look around. I've got an abundance of timber, and so we're doing our part to bushfire proof this property, and in that process, I'm setting aside some of the good usable timber. I want to go with a real rustic looking, just timber post, undressed, maybe the bark still on it. We'll see what we come up with for my corners and for my gate posts. Speaking of gate, I bought some timber palings, and we're going to put together an old school farmy looking wooden gate. I know I could have just bought a steel kit gate, and that's fine, probably worked out about the same price, but I want something looking really cool. We've got chicken mesh, we've got cement, we've got fence palings. That's probably enough to get started. Next step, let's mark it all out and see what it's going to look like, where it's going to fit exactly.
The lengths of the two shorter sides are approximately 1697 millimeters each.
1697. Just finished this rustic style looking farm gate. So the concept was pretty simple, just some 2.4 meter or 8 foot fence palings that we just put together horizontally with some pieces on the edges, sandwiching it all together, and then of course a cross piece to stop the whole thing scissoring all over the place. I've added a 1 inch or 25 mil piece of steel tube to one end of it because that'll fit some standard gate hardware, which we're going to mount to a post. And speaking of posts, I've just cut down the first 2 of 5 posts that we're going to put in this chicken coop area, and they're going to go into the ground. So it's time to dig some holes. I'm pretty happy with how this turned out. So that's the gate in place, but obviously we've still got the entire perimeter fence to build. But before we do that, since we already have our chicken coop over there, I don't want to put the fence in place and then have to try and, although I reckon it'd probably fit through here, but just to make things easier, we're going to take the chicken coop, which is just behind you over there, we're going to bring it in and set it up in its space. So the chickens are moving today. This is Peggy. She's got a sore leg. Now, she's also been constantly harassed and harangued by those roosters, which under normal circumstances, well, that's just chicken life, but when you can't get away in a hurry, that's just not very nice of an experience. So this is Peggy's safe space. This is one of the things I want to upgrade today. So this was their first roost. It was kind of a training roost. So it only sits about that high off the ground because they were all young chickens when they got here and they didn't really understand roosting and they didn't have an adult chicken to copy or mimic. But their natural inclination is to get up high where it's safe. And so we provided them this sort of 1 foot high roost. Now what I want to do is build a similar style roost. I love this natural style and it's really good for their feet, but we want to build it a bit higher. And I kind of want the whole thing to be hinged in there so I can lift it up out of the way and clean out all their chicken poop, which all ends up under the roost because, you know, they spend 8-10 hours on this thing just pooping all night long. And that stuff is really, really good for the gardens. Check out all this awesome chicken manure. It's mixed in with the soft floor mulch that we install in here, and we just keep topping it up to keep it kind of healthy and safe for them. But this is probably about a month or two's worth of chicken manure, and particularly all congested under their roosting area here. So I'm going to go and get the wheelbarrow because this stuff is magic for the gardens and I don't want to go into waste.
actually pretty easy. I'm on my own today. Kirsty's away and JJ's at work, so I had to kind of figure out how to move that on my own. And the beauty of these greenhouse kits is they are so lightweight, you can just move them around. But I don't know if you saw in the video there, it kind of flexed and moved a bit while I was moving it, because I had to go one end, then the next, one end, then the next. And that's okay. I want it to be mobile like this, but I just don't want this flimsy, cheap steel breaking anytime we want to go and move it. And I want that bottom section to be a bit more impermeable to potential predators, so that if anything does come sniffing around, I mean, they're going to have to get over a 6-foot fence first, but if they do come sniffing around, they're not going to be able to nose that up, because it's going to have some real strength and structure to it. Well, you could probably see, but that's some pretty crummy looking timber. That's really the outside edge stuff. So as you're milling timber, you'll get to pieces where there's, you know, kind of those holes and rotted pieces and edge pieces where the bark was. And that's the stuff you just don't use when you're building a cabin. But for a chicken coop, I reckon we can get away with it. So we'll trim off some of that crummy stuff, and I think we'll have enough to do a complete baseboard on this.
Well, I'm pretty happy with that upgrade so far, and there's so much more that I want to do to this chicken coop and this entire chicken area, but it looks like rain. I got one last thing I reckon we can squeeze in before the rain comes, and that is I want to cut down a stack more branches and make that chicken roost upgrade that we're talking about. So let's go grab some branches really quickly, we'll pin them all together and I'll show you what I mean. Okay, we're going to attach it at the back with these little hinges. All right, what I'm trying to work out here is what's the length of one chicken, or more importantly, what's the distance between top chicken's bum and bottom chicken's head. For the sake of their health and hygiene, make sure that's at least one chicken length. Okay, simple little wire hook, and the idea is that goes like that. Get in here with your rake, recover all that magnificent chicken poop, and then... So essentially what we've created here is just an upgraded version of the roost that they did have, which was just a nice natural branch for them to roost on, but now they've got multiple levels to choose from and multiple diameter size branches to choose from. The multiple level thing is actually pretty important. Now that my chickens are approaching about 6 months of age, they're going to start to establish some dominance hierarchy structures, and the pecking order, that's a real thing. Our main rooster, I've got about 2 or 3 roosters at the moment, he's going to sit right at the top, and practically that's so that he can keep an eye out for predators. And it's not just a king of the castle move, he is the boss, but it's so that he can watch out for predators, but also so that he can fight down any of the younger roosters that might be trying to make their way up through the ranks. If he's the strongest, he belongs at the top because he can do the job the best. And I've found that if you've got a reasonable size flock of chickens, you really do want to keep 1 or 2 roosters in that flock. It does help with predators, especially if you're free range or semi-free range, but it also stops your hens from selecting your most aggressive hen from the bunch and her trying to fulfill the role of rooster, which she just can't do. I mean, practically, she just doesn't have all of the faculties of a rooster, like spurs, for example. And so hens are a little bit unrestrained. They'll often fight a little bit too hard and they can really injure each other. And so if a hen is trying to play the role of rooster, it can cause all sorts of problems. So I do like having a rooster or 2 in the flock, and now they're going to work out that dominant structure, and the pecking order is a pretty important part to that process. Well, I'm going to call part 1 of this project done because I've got weather incoming, so the next couple of days are going to have to be spent indoors. Actually, I reckon I'm going to get into our greenhouse and start a whole bunch of seedlings going because spring is just around the corner. So that'll be another video coming out in the next few days, and then we'll get back to completing this project after that. If you don't want to miss all of that content, make sure you hit that subscribe button. That really helps us out. I'm really enjoying the comment section. I'm loving all of your questions. We're a brand new YouTube channel, and we've only been at this homesteading gig for 5 months, but we plan on sharing
sharing the entire journey with you. So all of that stuff, like this video, comment, subscribe, it really helps us grow. And if you want to know more about how we built this chicken coop, you can check out this video here. Otherwise, we'll see you on the next video.